YouTube, how are you now? So in today's video we are going to be covering Battlefield 2042 weapon stats. So damage values, range profiles, time to kill charts, all that good stuff, including the various attachments that impact those stats. But before we get into those, big thanks to Reddit user Toric Darkrise for doing all the testing, putting all the stats together in a chart that we're going to be referring back to in this video. The testing would definitely have taken quite a bit of time. It's really extensive, and I just don't have the patience for all that. But I do like looking at the numbers and putting them into my own time to kill charts to compare which weapons perform better in what situations and what attachment combinations are best. A couple things to make note of before we actually get into the stats. If you want the fastest time to kill possible, basically you're going to want to increase the fire rate, and there are a couple ways to do this. So you have your close combat ammunition type, so this will increase your rate of fire. It'll also improve your recoil control, but it does come at the cost of decreasing some of your range values, so you have to keep that in mind. And then also you have the short barrel option, so this will increase your rate of fire as well, but it comes at the cost of lower bullet velocity, so it's going to make it harder to hit targets, especially moving targets, and especially at range. And then on the flip side, there are certain attachments that will slow down your time to kill. So anything that's going to slow down your fire rate, so like your long barrel, this does slow down your fire rate, but it improves your bullet velocity, so it should make it easier to hit moving targets, especially at range. And then ammunition types, so if you have the close combat ammunition type and you use any other option, these are going to slow down your fire rate to various degrees, so the standard issue and then the high powered even more, so that's going to slow down your time to kill as well. The high power rounds, they do increase your ranges, some of them quite significantly, but it does add recoil, and it also comes at that cost of slower fire rate. So even though you are extending some of those ranges, you may not actually be able to hit your targets at those ranges if that added recoil is significant enough to make a difference. And then we also have suppressors, so these are also going to slow down your time to kill as well, because they do less damage. Let me go to a weapon that has both types of suppressors. So your standard suppressors, your 6KU and your wrapped, these do less damage, and then your heavy suppressors, so your PB heavy and your Type 4 heavy, do even less damage than your regular suppressors. The difference between the two, which I did not know, is that your regular suppressors only keep you off the minimap while firing outside of 20 meters. So within 20 meters, even if you're using these two suppressors, you will show up on enemy minimaps when firing. So if you thought you were being sneaky, flanking enemies at close range using these suppressors, you're still actually showing up on their minimap when you're firing. It doesn't say that in the description, it just says no minimap spotting while firing, but that's not entirely true. That's only partially true. So within 20 meters, it does not keep you off the minimap. Whereas your heavy suppressors, they do keep you off the minimap at any range, but they come at the cost of less damage than even the regular suppressors. And then subsonic ammunition. So subsonic ammunition is supposed to perform similar to the regular suppressors. It's supposed to keep you off the minimap outside of 20 meters, but currently they do not keep you off the minimap at any range. I don't know if that's intended or a bug, but if you're using subsonic ammunition to stay off the minimap, I would consider switching to something else until either that gets fixed or that's revealed that that's the intended purpose. So it doesn't say it keeps you off the minimap, it just says muzzle flash visibility reduction and a reduced shooter profile, so that may not be the intended effect, but if you were using subsonic ammunition to stay off the minimap, it currently does not do that. So before we jump into the actual stats, If you just want the short version, I have compiled a chart here with the various time to kills of each of the full auto weapons with their fastest time to kill potential. So whichever attachment combination creates the fastest time to kill potential, that's the version of the weapon that's in here for each of the full autos. So you have your time to kills for no armor, and then your time to kills against armor. The way this color coding works is red is your fastest time to kill possible, and then orange is within 50 milliseconds of that fastest time to kill. Yellow is within 100 milliseconds of that fastest time to kill. Light green within 150 milliseconds. Dark green within 200 milliseconds. And then grays are going to be outside of that, but you don't have that here. So your standouts here against no armor are going to be your K30 here. So it's the best at almost every single range except within 5 to 10 meters and then within 20 to 30 meters, but it's still within 50 milliseconds of the fastest time to kill in those ranges. It's the fastest firing gun there is, so that makes sense. It's no surprise, but it is still fastest even at the longest ranges, which is kind of surprising since it's an SMG. But then at the same time, this is only your theoretical time to kill if you can hit every single shot at the fastest fire rate possible. So chances are you're not going to be hitting every shot full auto with a K30 at the 7,500 plus meter ranges. You're going to have to tap fire and burst fire just to be able to hit those shots. So you have to take that into consideration, but it is the strongest performer. Same goes for against armor. It's the fastest there is. So, but even though it's fastest at this range, you may actually be able to beat it with, say, the PKP. If you have this gun bipoded, you're going to be able to full auto at these ranges and still hit, whereas the K30 you're not going to be able to. But this is just your standard time to kills with perfect accuracy. So the only guns that beat the K30 are going to be the M5A3 and the PBX45 within 5 to 10 meters, which is a negligible range. But they still compete even at other ranges within that 50 milliseconds. And then the PP29 excels within that 20 to 30 meter range. Beats out every weapon there. But again, other weapons are still pretty close there. So K30 is a standout, definitely. The M5 is still a pretty good gun within 30 meters. It's not terrible here, but it does fall off a little bit into the yellow and green categories. And then the PBX45 is a good gun within 20 meters. PP29 is decent at that 10 to 40 meter range. MP9 is good within 5 meters, but then drops off a little bit. Still pretty good here as well, but it doesn't keep up as well within that 50 millisecond range with 5 to 10, but then it's really good here as well. So within 10 to 50 meters, it's still really fast killing gun. And then these guns here are varying degrees. So same thing is basically the case even against armor. Some of the guns fall off a little bit harder depending on the armor because it does add that 20 extra damage that you have to do. So, but the K30 is still the standout. M5 still really good. PP29 is good in that mid range. MP9 is still really good. And then the other weapons are situational. So, but I mean, they're all decent. So none of them are super out of the mix. Dark green starting to fall off quite a bit. Light green still not great either. But 100 milliseconds yellow is still not that bad. So it's noticeable, but it's not a huge difference. And then orange is still pretty good too. So within 50 milliseconds, that's slightly noticeable, but that's still a very small difference as well. So this is a chart put together by Reddit user Toric Darkrise. You have your M5A3 here with your various ammunition types. So you have your standard here, your high power, your CQC, and your subsonic. Your standard ammunition does 22 damage out to 20 meters, 18 damage out to 50 meters, and then 15 damage beyond that. And then your standard ammunition suppressed does less damage, so 20 damage out to 20 meters, 17 damage out to 50 meters, and then 14 damage beyond that. Your rate of fire is going to be 700 rounds per minute with the standard long barrel combo, 800 rounds per minute with the standard short barrel combo, and then 750 rounds per minute with everything else. So your factory barrel or your suppressor or your compensators or muzzle brakes. And then you have the high power rounds here. So you're going to be doing 22 damage out to 40 meters. So that basically doubles the first damage range, and then 18 damage beyond that. So you don't have a damage drop off beyond this range here like this does. And then your high power suppressed does less damage, 20 damage out to 40 meters, and then 17 damage beyond that. Your rate of fire is going to be 650 rounds per minute with your high power and long barrel combo, 750 rounds per minute with your high power short barrel combo, and then 700 rounds per minute with your high power and either factory barrel, suppressor, or compensator muzzle brake combo. And then your CQC rounds, you're going to be doing a little bit more damage, so 26 damage, but only out to 10 meters, 22 damage out to 30 meters, 18 damage out to 40 meters, 15 damage out to 50 meters, and then 13 damage beyond that. Your CQC suppressed is going to be 24 damage out to 10 meters, 20 damage out to 30 meters, 17 damage out to 40 meters, 14 damage out to 50 meters, and then 12 damage beyond that. So your rate of fire is going to be 750 rounds per minute with your CQC long barrel combo, 850 rounds per minute with your CQC short barrel combo, so that's the fastest rate of fire you can get with this weapon, and then 800 rounds per minute with your CQC and factory barrel or suppressor or compensator muzzle brake combo. And then your subsonic ammunition type does 22 damage out to 30 meters, 18 damage out to 48 meters, and then 15 damage beyond that. Subsonic suppressed does 20 damage out to 30 meters, 17 damage out to 48 meters, and then 14 damage beyond that. The rate of fire is going to be 650 rounds per minute with your subsonic long barrel combo, 750 rounds per minute with your subsonic short barrel combo, and then 700 rounds per minute with your subsonic factory barrel suppressor or muzzle brake compensator combo. So here we have the time to kill charts for the M5 with all the various ammunition types and barrel combinations. So we have armor and no armor. So the armor is only comparative to other armor. So here you have no armor and armor being the fastest time to kills, but they are different, 212, 282. But armor is only being compared to other armor, and then no armor is only being compared to other no armor times, just to make it simpler. But I grouped them together so you can see how each attachment combination performs in both situations, because you can't control who's wearing armor and who isn't, so you're going to be running into enemies with armor and without armor. So what you're using at the time, you're not really going to be switching up based on if they have armor or not. But the standout here is going to be your CQC ammunition and your short barrel combo. The best time to kill within 30 meters, and then a really good time to kill out to 50 meters, but then it drops off a little bit beyond that into the dark green against armor, and then yellow. So within 100 milliseconds at those long ranges. But you still have a lot of options here, so anything in orange is still pretty good. And then your high power rounds, short barrel combo is going to be best at long ranges. So anything past 35 meters it's going to excel at. It's not the fastest within the 40 to 50 meter range, but it's only off by like 25 milliseconds, 30 milliseconds. So it's not a big difference. And then at those longest ranges, it's the best as well. So makes sense because the high power rounds are meant for those longer ranges, but you do have to take into consideration the added recoil with those high power rounds. But yeah, you have a lot of good options here. The suppressor I wouldn't recommend on the M5 simply because it does hurt your time to kill in pretty much every situation. So your best time to kill here, if you run a suppressor instead of the short barrel, one, you're giving up fire rate, the faster fire rate of the short barrel, and two, you're doing less damage. So it does affect your time to kill, especially here. Look, within 10 meters, you're losing 100 milliseconds against no armor. It's only 20 milliseconds against armor, so that's negligible, but 100 milliseconds is a huge difference, especially when your time to kill is 200 something. And then here you're losing 20 milliseconds, 20 milliseconds, so not too big a deal, 20 milliseconds, but here you're losing over 100 milliseconds. That's a pretty big deal. Here 100 milliseconds, here over 100 milliseconds, here 100 milliseconds, over 100 milliseconds. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend using the suppressor on the M5 just because it slows down your time to kill pretty significantly in certain situations, and you're not getting the no minimap spotting within 20 meters. So if your engagements are within 20 meters, you're trying to use the suppressor to flank enemies and not show up on the minimap. But if they're within 20 meters, you're still showing up on the minimap anyway. So I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend the CQC short combo for sure. So I was planning on going through the entire list of full auto weapons, covering each weapon and all their various attachments, but for the sake of time, I think I'm just going to do the M5 for this video, and then maybe do each other gun as its own video, or some combination of similar types, maybe the SMGs in one video and the ARs in another and the LMGs in another, just because this video is already getting pretty long. So I think we're just going to stop here and then figure out the rest later. So for the M5, I would recommend using the close combat ammunition paired with the short barrel just to max out that fire rate, get the fastest time to kill possible in most situations, especially within the close ranges that you're going to be using this weapon at. And then for your underbarrel, I'll probably go with the grips that improve your accuracy while moving, because you're going to want to be moving around playing aggressive. But you could always use the other grips that improve your accuracy while static if you plan on standing still while shooting. And you can also use the underbarrels as well, so you have your grenade launchers and your shotguns. And then whichever optic you prefer for whatever range. But yeah, that concludes part 1 of this series. Thank you all for watching yet again. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.